Oh, okay.
All right. Welcome. This Board of Estimates meeting is about to begin. Good morning. Today is July 2nd, 2025. This meeting is now called to order. Before we get into any kind of business, I wanted to briefly turn it over to the city solicitor to recognize some of the amazing people that are before us today. Madam Solicitor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Council President. I wanted to do it at the end, but that's all good. I just wanted to recognize our law school interns that are interning with us, helping us on some really monumental progress and lawsuits within the city, as well as we have college student with us, and we also have some of my favorite, the Law Link students. We have two in high school, in Baltimore City high schools. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. Hopefully we can hang back and just give them a photo op, and I think the comptroller has some other photo ops for us to take. But just wanted to thank them to really help us, and as we are going through some pretty tough times in our industry, the legal industry, attack on our industry, having them here gives me a lot of hope about the future in the legal industry. So thank you guys for all your help. I know you guys have already been busy. We'll continue to keep you busy, and just want to acknowledge you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for your mentorship and leadership of young people at all levels in our city. I'm going to briefly also turn it over to Mr. Comptroller, who also has some special guests working with him. Mr. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity to let the board know we are joined this morning by the 2025 class of Comptrollers Fellows.
All right.
We have a row of them right here. One will be working with accounts payable, one with the Department of Real Estate, two in the executive office, and as a sign of how much of a growth field it is, we have three in telecommunications. Yeah. So they'll also be staying after the meeting for a photo op, and I don't know, maybe we can set up some kind of softball game against the law department or something like that.
We have a softball team.
You have a softball?
Yes. And we're winning. We just beat Piper.
Man. Pardon?
Yeah.
Watch yourself.
Well,
All right.
Just for the intern. Okay, but the interns are playing.
This is where I let the mayor know that sometimes in the summer when the library was closed, we would go play softball. So yeah, that sounds like fun.
Well, not in City Hall because I don't want any lawsuits.
Oh no. We'll find a field.
All right. And Mr. Mayor.
Just briefly, be careful what you wish for. I know they're young people, but you know, I don't let anyone win. They can be a 2-month-old, and I will beat them.
All right. I am feeling profoundly lacking in Council President Fellows. So be prepared. I may just snatch a few of you. Either the math folks or the lawyer folks. Be ready. Yeah, everybody needs both. No, but on a serious note, I do want to thank all the young people who are coming and working with us this summer. I will say, I know for all 5 members of this board, we take mentorship extremely seriously. We fundamentally believe that you all are not just the future leadership of our city, you're our leadership now, and that the work that you do over this summer is going to be extremely impactful. And like the solicitor said, we are in a tough moment for the law, for local government, for many institutions. And so having you all here with us to be part of this moment in Baltimore, where in spite of some of the chaos that we're experiencing, we are plowing forward and thriving and winning as a city. I just hope this is an awesome experience, and please know the mayor, myself, solicitor, director of public works, the comptroller, we are all in to make you all extremely successful, and we need you. So I do want to sincerely thank you for stepping up and for the work that you're going to do, not just this summer, but throughout your career. It's meaningful, and despite public service being degraded at the federal level, know that we deeply value it here in Baltimore. So appreciate you all for what you're doing. With that, the board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you are called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. At this time, I would ask Clerk Celeste Amato for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have the following correction to note this morning for the agenda, item SB 2512055, DPW. This is Amendment 3, a time extension for WC 1328 Montebello Filtration Plant. Number 1, infrastructure improvements, Project 1280 with Whitman, Reckwart and Associates. We are striking the start date and entering 5/16/2018 and striking the end date on this item and entering 5/16/2026. We have no walk-ons to note this morning. We have 2 deferrals to note this morning. SB 2512195, grant agreement with Baltimore City Opioid Restitution Fund, Behavioral Health System Baltimore 988 Lifeline Awareness and Use Campaign. This item is being deferred until July 16th at the request of the Council President. SB 2512237, Bureau of Procurement. This is an award select source on-call unarmed security. This item has been deferred until August 6th at the request of the Comptroller. We have no withdrawals to note this morning. We have received a protest on item SB 2512237, Bureau of Procurement, Award Select Source On-Call Unarmed Security for $9,980,183. Statements of opposition have been received from the following: Laverna Stackhouse Abacus employee, Laura Dixon Abacus employee, Andrew McNeil Abacus employee, SEIU 32BJ Labor Union, and Metro Baltimore AFL-CIO. The following items are on the non-routine agenda today. SB 2512104, Parking Authority Emergency Procurement Extension, Group Garage Management Agreements for $123,761. SB 2511947, Department of Transportation Amendment 3, MOU, Inner Harbor Crosswalks and Bicycle Wayfinding Enhancement Project. And SB 2511425 for the Department of Public Works, an agreement with Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority for $30 million. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 2512131, Health Department Provider Agreement with the Johns Hopkins University. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen has no abstentions this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and travel reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson has no abstentions to note this morning, and the Director of Public Works Khalil Zaid is abstaining on the following items: SB 2511967, Department of Human Resources Environmental Control Board Employment Contract with Tara Barnes, SB 2511966, Department of Human Resources Environmental Control Board Employment Contract with Michael Taylor, and SB 2511968, Department of Human Resources Environmental Control Board Employment Contract with Layla Said. And we have no votes to note this morning on the routine agenda, and that concludes our opening statement, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated July 2nd, 2025, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items, together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the non-routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the items on the routine agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Seeing no further questions, we will now move to the non-routine agenda. The first item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2512104 from the Parking Authority. The board is requested to note emergency procurement to cover the management and reimbursable expenses for July 2025. On behalf of the Parking Authority, we have Director Peter Little. Director Little, the floor is yours. Good morning, board members. Morning.
Thank you. So this is an extension of an agreement with...
Pete, just do me a favor. Just identify yourself and your
sorry.
title.
Pete Little, Executive Director with the Parking Authority of Baltimore City.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. So this is just a 1-month extension of an agreement with SP Plus to manage the Caroline Street, Fleet and Eden, and Little Italy garages until they can be transitioned to PMS parking on August the 1st under a 3-year agreement that got approved by this board on May the 7th.
Questions from the board? Mr. Comptroller.
Yeah, I think we figured out, we figured this out because the previous contracts had staggered ending dates. And so now this emergency procurement has staggered starting times for them, but they all have the same ending date so that we won't need to do staggering again in the future. Is that correct?
Well, no, not exactly. So we have 4 groups of garages altogether. All 4 of those groups of garages are transitioning to new parking management companies. Essentially, they're swapping management companies. So 2 of those groups transitioned, got swapped out, so to speak, a couple of nights ago on July the 1st. That's the start date for those contracts. It was really impossible for us to transition all 4 groups of garages at the same time.
Okay.
So we're doing the second group August 1st. All 4 of those contracts, though, will run full 3-year terms so that if we have this situation again in the future, we won't have to look at trying to transition all 4 groups of garages again.
Okay.
So that's why we're extending this group for 1 month to August 1st. And at the next Board of Estimates meeting, there will be one other group that gets extended for 1 month to August 1st as well, too, because they're transitioning. Those 2 groups of garages are going to transition on August 1st together.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what we figured. Okay, thank you.
Has the city considered developing internal management capabilities for municipal garages to reduce reliance on external contracts over time? Like, are we considering bringing some of this in-house?
Yeah, we sort of constantly evaluate that, whether it would make more sense to bring it in-house. This does give opportunities, though, to small regional firms. One of the companies that's managing 2 groups of these garages is a Baltimore-based MBE and WBE, so it gives them opportunities to gain market share, gain experience in parking. That's one factor. We have taken a look at the cost factor as well, too, and we think it's comparable, that the cost would be comparable whether they're outsourced or managed by us. If they were managed directly by us, we'd have to increase our administrative staff, which would offset any management fee that we pay to these companies. So yes, we do take a look at that on a regular basis.
How does the performance of the current garage management contractor compare to KPIs, key performance indicators established in the contract, and were these benchmarks used in negotiating this new contract?
Well, we do, through the Bureau of Procurement, put out an RFP for management of these facilities. There are a whole bunch of criteria that they have to meet in order to manage these garages. These 2 operators that we do have now definitely do meet all of those criteria. In terms of whether they currently meet the KPIs that we've established, yes, they do. They do a good job of managing the facilities, keeping them clean and maintained, offering customer service, helping to market the facilities as well, too, in order to increase revenue and to reduce costs at the facilities.
Other questions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, I would note this item. Thank you, Director Little.
Thank you.
The next item is SB 2511947, a request from the Department of Transportation to approve the MOU that extends the construction contract to November 27th. On behalf of the Department of Transportation, we have several representatives. If you all could come up and introduce yourselves to the board. Thank you.
Good morning, Roderick Miller, Project Manager with DOT.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bimal Devkota, Chief of Engineering and Construction, DOT.
Great. Please proceed.
Yeah, so the Inner Harbor Intersection Improvement Project, it was originally a TAP project, Transportation Alternatives Program project with State Highway. And the original MOU was back in 2016. Design started around 2019. Then the first MOU, well, first the project, what it includes, if you're not familiar, it's 3 intersections of Pratt and Light, Pratt and Calvert, and Pratt and President. The work included is high visibility continental style crosswalks, ADA compliant ramps, APS, CPS countdown pedestrian signals, and a new pedestrian conduit installation being implemented. And lastly, bike and pedestrian wayfinding signage along the corridor of Pratt Street. So again, the MOU was back in 2016. Design started around 2019. The first MOU amendment was granting or was requesting time extension for the design aspect. Then the second amendment of the MOU, that came about because the scope changed, not necessarily the scope, but the original MOU required the project to concentrate on 10 intersections. However, the MOU only gave the city $1,050,000. And to do 10 intersections, it just wasn't enough money. So we kind of rescoped some things. Scope still is the same, but limited the 10 intersections to 3, which were the ones I mentioned previously. So the second amendment was basically for that. Now this third amendment, because if you're not familiar with this project, we are in construction now, started back in June with night work. And this is basically for a time extension with the project end date is May 31st, 2026. And we're just asking for more time for the funding, basically. And that's November of 27.
Duly noted. Mr. Comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Morning.
A couple little questions. One was, you said that the wayfinding signs are along the Pratt corridor, but still just at those 3 intersections, or are they other places along the corridor?
Yeah, the wayfinding signage, they're in other places. So from Light and Pratt and extends down to Marketplace.
Oh, okay.
So
All
a
right.
lot of signage that's probably already existing, we'll be replacing those and probably installing new signage in between.
Okay. And then the other sort of a bigger picture question is, what tracking methods does DOT use to keep track of these kind of MOUs and their expiration dates so that you know when they're coming up and you can, if you need to extend, you can do that before they run out?
I do know we believe we are working on a SharePoint system with State Highway. So
That's
that
correct.
we'll be tracking things a little more efficiently with them,
With State Highway?
or MDOT.
Yeah, the
Okay.
funding comes from State Highway, so the agreement is between State Highway and us. So we have developed a SharePoint drive where both parties are.
BSIT's going to let you do a SharePoint with somebody outside our organization? I mean, and that's not a complaint or a criticism. It's more like a, how'd you do that?
We are, but I think we checked with BCIT.
Okay.
For that,
All right. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that I think we're good and a little excited at the prospect. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Madam Solicitor?
Not sure if you would know this, but just want to make sure that everything we do under this MOU, we're going to be getting credit for our ADA consent decree, partial consent decree.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Okay, great. That would be great. Oh, Director's here. Thank you. Yep, she's confirming. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions from the board, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. This item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is SB 2511947, a request from, oh, I'm sorry, nope, check that. The next item is SB 2511425, a request from the Department of Public Works for approval of a contractual agreement with the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority. On behalf of the Department of Public Works, we have Director Matt Garbark. Director Garbark, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members. I'm Matt Garbark, the interim deputy director for the Department of Public Works
Is that that's too much going on, Matt?
for 7 days.
Okay.
7 more days.
Gracious.
The item before you is a 4-year, $30 million agreement through the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority with Denali Water Solutions. A few months ago, I walked the board through the wastewater treatment process at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. It consists of 4 phases: pre-treatment, primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. Each phase results in solid material that must be further treated and disposed of. During the pre-treatment phase, large materials such as rags, grit, and debris are screened out. This material is then taken to the Quarantine Road landfill. For other pre-treatment phases, biosolids are generated through physical, chemical, and biological reactions. The solids are treated and disposed of by one of 2 processes. 70% of the solids are dried and pelletized through the Synagro facility and sold as fuel, fertilizer, or as an additive for concrete. The remaining 30% is transported to an industrial composting facility. The compost facility was constructed by the Northeast Authority and was managed by Veolia. Veolia has decided to close the facility permanently, and this contract replaces the composting contract and allows us to continue to operate the plant and effectively dispose of our biosolids. With your permission, Mr. President, I'd like to ask our Deputy Bureau Head, Michael Hallman, to go over a presentation and provide some more detail on this contract.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council President, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the board. I'm Michael Hallman. I'm Deputy Bureau Head for Water and Wastewater, and I'm going to kind of harken back to a discussion we had back in March regarding our Synagro amendment, except we're going to pivot just a little bit. So if you could change the slide for me, Mahmood. So in front of you here is just kind of to just refresh all of us exactly what our biosolids handling and processes look like at the Back River wastewater treatment plant. On the left-hand side is how we actually go through the process where the feed comes in, and then the different processes we have as it makes its way towards its final end product. There on the right, you'll see an acid phase reactor, 2 egg-shaped digesters, and 6 in-ground digesters. That digestion actually helps us be able to reduce total amount of biosolids we have to handle on any given day. At the moment, those areas are all under a capital project, so we're actually having to process more solids in a day than we would normally once digestion is able to be returned. That project itself is on schedule and is looking to be done by the end of 2027, and that will comply with our consent decree there as well. Once it goes through our digestion process, we split that to have a diverse outlet for our biosolids, which about 70% of that goes through Synagro, where it is pelletized, and as Director Garbark said just a moment ago, gave various applications for what those pellets are actually used for. That remaining delta, that 30% that's left, goes to our composting facility where it produces grade A, or class A, I should say, biosolids, which means that it is non-detect for pathogens and bacteria and things of that nature, so it is safe for use in home gardens, soil conditioners, and things like that. It is the prime product we could possibly produce out of our biosolids. And a typical, or on average, Synagro would process about 60 dry tons per day, where our compost facility, I look at it on a monthly basis, has a minimum of 2,100 wet tons per month, with a maximum that they can handle of about 3,000 wet tons per month. All right, change the slide, please. I think it's important to also refresh and note that we have an RFP that is out that is closing on August the 7th. That is a comprehensive biosolids RFP that will handle, going into the future, our drying and composting efforts going forward. Once that closes, we'll go through the selection process for a vendor, the ramp-up time to be able to get that vendor selected, getting the new building up, commission startup. That puts us in the 2029 to 2030 timeframe. So this contract we're asking about today, or we're discussing today, really just helps us buffer that interim period between the completion of the Veolia contract, which was Monday, and then being able to have this new vendor up and started. Right, next slide, please. All right, so this contract with Denali itself, again, as I stated, is going to help us buffer that time period in there and give us continued capacity and ability to be able to handle the amount of biosolids we have. Because of the lack of digestion we have due to the capital work underway, we have to handle in the ballpark of 100 dry tons per day. That's a lot. And it's every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and a little bit more when it rains. So, it's an effort that we have to put forth, and so having a diverse amount of outlets actually alleviates those types of backlogs, which caused us the problems we had back in 2021, which I won't bring up for the board, but everybody's aware. So until we can get this vendor selected for that RFP, we need something as this buffer in the interim. And so, next slide, please. Why did we select Denali? Well, Denali honestly was the only proposal that we actually received. Veolia decided to take a pass on this particular contract. I have my own suspicions they're going for the larger one that's due in August, providing more comprehensive solutions. Besides the amount of cost it would take for them to continue to operate the facility at Quarantine Road Landfill, the sheer amount of capital investment that would be required, as well as their adjustment in their tipping fee, or how much it costs for us to send that material to them, makes it untenable for them for such a short-term contract. Again, this contract is for 4 years. We asked for 2 additional 1-year extensions, just in case of any potential delays on the startup of the new facility. Again, flexibility, but it will also allow us to sunset that contract at the same time as our current Synagro contract, or the amendment we approved back in March, and then we move on into what this next iteration is going to look like. A couple of things to consider here in terms of this selection with Denali and potential impacts with, if we had continued with Veolia or suggested to continue with Veolia. We have to also take into account potential regulatory limitations and requirements. So in this past legislative session, it was very close. It didn't quite get to vote, but there was discussion about limiting the amount of PFAS available in land application biosolids of a 1 part per billion number, and that would severely limit our available outlets where we're going to be able to send that product. And so we would have to pivot again, probably in a very costly way, and invest even further into our current drying operation just to meet our current daily needs. Not the most tenable in that. So moving forward with Denali, while it is a bit more expensive than our current Veolia contract, it's about $9 million more. There are benefits associated with that. And so with that, Denali is proposing to be able to basically haul our biosolids, or what we're going to do for composting, to their facilities both in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, where their regulations are a little bit behind where Maryland is really pushing itself to be. And so that's definitely a positive for us. With any impending changes, it's going to come on that front. These facilities also will continue to produce Class A product for us. So being the environmental stewards that we are, having the best product out of our biosolids be produced is of utmost importance. One additional thing, and this may get a few chuckles out of it, but there is a branding opportunity for the saleable product that comes out of the Denali facilities that we don't currently have under Veolia. So yes, we want to brand the City of Baltimore biosolids going into people's gardens and whatnot. Our friends down at WSSC, they use a product called Bloom, if you guys are familiar with that, and they use that as their particular branding technique. But this is, again, it just puts a little bit of positive spin on what's otherwise a kind of messy topic that we talk about.
I'm thinking something along the lines of be more grown.
Hey, I am open for all these
Okay,
suggestions.
all
I mean, we haven't really vetted names or anything yet, but I'm open.
We're gonna work on some additional brainstorming for you.
I like that. I love that. Thank you. Collaboration. Next slide, please, Mummy. So next one, please. I'm sorry, I'm a little ahead of you. All right, so a little bit of details about the contract itself. So for the timeline, you'll see the contract itself is for 4 years, and then we have 2 additional 1-year optional extensions. Some really positive things here on the right side of this particular slide is the minimum amount that they will process, 30,600 wet tons, is more than Veolia is able to handle. And the maximum they can handle is substantially more than Veolia can currently handle. So we actually have better and more throughput to this particular vendor. In addition, in terms of MBE, WBE goals, Veolia contract currently has 8.7. Yes, that's the math, 8.7. And this contract is going to have 15. A 10 and 5 breakdown on that. So again, substantially more. And that's all going to be tied into the hauling to their facilities, but definitely a positive for those small businesses out there. So to kind of wrap up, it's a need for our business. It's absolutely a need we have until we're able to get our new vendor selected and onboarded with new technology so that we can prepare for the future in a different way. We can prepare for the changing regulatory environment and prepare for better processing of our biosolids. Also, as a refresher, I think I talked about this back in March. We are under a pyrolysis pilot currently within our Back River facility. It's very small. It's only about 1 to 2 dry tons per day for that, compared to our 100 that we have to get rid of every day. So it's really small, but being able to test available technologies out there and to see what is actually going to be scalable for what we're predicting for the future, okay? And so it's imperative that, not only in the interim do we have this potential outlet and to help us get to that point, but we're, as an agency, really preparing for what the future could potentially look like here, and that we continue to strive to be on the forefront of not only technology, but also leading environmental standards. So with that, I will stop my presentation and answer any questions somebody might have.
I appreciate it. I'm going to just start asking about public safety and safety for workers, understanding that this is not about what happens in the treatment facility, but about moving the waste. I do want to just ask how we're thinking about the safety standards for anyone who is interacting with our systems. Of course, we know that safety has been a huge concern for this agency. In 2019, Trina Cunningham tragically died in the backwater waste facility. And we've heard since then both a lot of concerns in sanitation that I know the current director has been working extremely hard to solve, but also in wastewater treatment facilities as well. And so I want to ask both about the safety standards, how we vetted Denali, and then just while you're here, Mr. Garbark, and assuming you are potentially headed for a new role, I want to ask you how DPW is thinking about safety for our workers within any of our wastewater treatment facilities.
Okay, so in terms of safety here with Denali, we would not be their first particular customer that is doing something of a similar nature here. They utilize sealed trucks in order to be able to safely move the material from point A to point B to they're able to process it there. Within our own plants and what we're capable of doing and what we actually do in that part of the process is really loading from our silos, which is our containment areas, into the trucks. And that is all automated. So very little human interaction on that outside of monitoring from a control panel. In terms of their safety record and whatnot, they provided that during in their proposal. They have been deemed a very safe company. They're permitted to be able to transport our material from state to state, and we did not note anything of real concern in terms of Denali and safety. The handling of the material is very similar to how we handle it currently under Veolia. That wouldn't change, just the name on the truck and where it's going.
Understood. Mr. Garbark, perhaps you could provide, I just want a 2-minute summary. I know there's been a lot of changes within the agency. The current director and I have talked a lot about sanitation and improvements that he's made there. I will say the council is extremely concerned about safety for all of our workers, and we know that wastewater treatment has been a challenge, not just in terms of Ms. Cunningham, but frequent reports by both CUB and AFSCME of workers experiencing unsanitary, unsafe conditions. Could you provide an update on where the agency is?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. And again, under Director Zayed's leadership, we've really focused on safety as our top priority. We've developed a safety team. We had an Office of Training, Safety and Training. We've made the safety team its own standalone office. We hired a new chief who is an expert in safety. We've hired an industrial hygienist who is able to understand the science, the engineering behind how facilities, systems are working to make sure our employees are accessing it properly. We've also staffed up in the safe.
Real quick,
Yes, sir.
on the hygienist, is that person overseeing both waste and both solid waste and wastewater
Yes, sir.
treatment? Are they
It's
the
everything.
whole agency?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is one person sufficient for that job?
For that particular role, we think it is because it's a very specified role, looking at the design of some of our facilities and some of the features in them. It's not, we have a whole number of safety officers who are going out inspecting, as well as an entire number of training staff who conduct trainings every day just about on safe access to the plant, different things that you need to use, PPE, all of that stuff. So we've really plussed up our safety unit.
Do the safety officers report up to the hygienist? Is he?
They-
Are they in their own?
They report up to the
bracket?
chief of safety.
Okay.
And that is a person we hired. The hygienist reports to the chief of safety. This is a new individual we hired who has an entire career in occupational safety, has a lot of relationships and experience working with MOSH, as well as with OSHA regulations, and they're out at the site every day. If there's an issue, they come out the next morning. So there's training that goes on all the time. There's also awareness. We put up the Speak Up campaign which is for our solid waste. That's for the entire department. So we're making that messaging out for everyone in the entire department so that they can raise issues anonymously and without fear of reprisals or anything like that. And we're also focusing, and we've talked about it, a fleet and facilities division, where we're aggressively going after our facilities. We've focused a lot on the solid waste facilities, but our water and wastewater facilities need that love and care as well. And when we find something, we go out and address it quickly. We've had a number of air conditioning issues the last few weeks. We've jumped on those quickly. When we couldn't fix them, we brought temporary units in, rehoused employees before it became any major issue. So I think we're doing very well on safety here. We put a lot of things in place under Director Zayed's leadership, and we're going to continue making that our top priority.
I appreciate that. I know that is a top priority for everyone sitting behind this dais. It is absolutely the top priority for the Baltimore City Council as well, making sure the women and men that show up to work, whether they're a sanitation worker or whether they're in a wastewater treatment facility, that they come home and are not sick or severely injured is top priority for this City Council. And so I look forward to continuing to see that remain the top priority for the Department of Public Works, both on both sides of the House, and do appreciate some of the strides that have been made. I want to recognize Director Zayed, who wants to come off mute, but also for the strong work you've been doing in this space.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to add one more thing. When we talk about the industrial hygienist, we're lucky enough to get someone who came from MOSH itself. So it's someone that really understands the processes, understand what the requirements, what they're looking for. And we really started internally. In like the first week, she started in our building. I said, like, this is the things that you're going to need to fix. And moving on to other things throughout the agency, I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I have a couple more questions about our capacity to do this work in-house, which I know we do not currently have. This is something the mayor and I have talked a bunch about, is sort of the gap that we've seen in a lot of the more higher-end jobs in this space, where for a while before he was mayor and I was council president and Bill Henry was comptroller, there was a lack of investment in training of the next generation of skilled worker at DPW. That is a priority certainly for the mayor and I think for the comptroller as well. Can you talk about how 10 years, 15 years from now, we would be able to take many of the functions that we are currently contracting out, perhaps including this current contract, and bring it in-house or bring some capacity in-house? Because I think that it's extremely important that we are putting our own Baltimore City workers to work, and not just paying contractors.
Absolutely. Completely understand. And that is where our focus has been at and will continue to be at as we go forward. In terms of some of what I would call the more specialized work, so when we're talking about, say, the drying facility that Synagro currently operates and what we may explore into the future, bringing that in-house, it would require a lot of planning and investment in our folks, because with whatever technology is selected, whether it's thermal hydrolysis, high gasification, if we're able to expand pyrolysis out there, it takes a certain level of understanding and ability in order to be able to operate those particular facilities, because they are, one, they're very dangerous. So the safety factor that's there is going to be so very high, as well as the skill set. Now, there are definitely opportunities for us to continue to bring people, to bring a lot of that work back into city staff. And that's what we're doing here, whether it's through our Be More Wise program, our support here of the Mayor's Infrastructure Academy, and whatnot. And we've seen already benefit from it. I actually was at Back River yesterday, and I had somebody tell me, say, hey, when do we get to take the plant back? Because we have we're starting to get a lot of people here now. The recruiting efforts are happening. I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant than this person was that said it to me, because we are getting people in the door, don't quite have the certification levels that we need yet. But I am seeing a lot of the passion and the fire by those particular folks for all of the training and the investment that we have been putting in with them over the past couple of years, and that we will continue to place into them. So from an operational standpoint, I am fully confident that within the next 5 years, and simply because of certification times and things like that, the liquid treatment side definitely would be all back under city staff control. And then we'll be working back towards taking over the solids handling side, which is under Jacobs. So again, I don't want to muddy the waters because it can get a little confusing, but which is under Jacobs. And so be able to take that out. But it still is going to take a significant effort on our recruiting front as well as our training front as we go forward. Just in recruitment alone at Back River, we're still short somewhere in the ballpark of 45 operators in order for us to successfully operate the current Headworks facility as well as all of the solids processing. Okay, so I don't want to paint.
Are we training up for those for the operators? Is there a pipeline? Is there a continuum?
Absolutely. We're investing in current staff that are lacking their certification, and we are really pushing the new folks that we're bringing in and adding in. I'm working with HR on this to be able to. How we bring in our apprentices and putting them through our Be More Wise program right off the jump. That it's an intense 6-month program that really gives them a strong base and foundation in wastewater treatment that is setting them up for better success than what we have done traditionally. So we just need more, and we have 237 vacancies that we have positions posted for at the moment, and we are looking to continue to hire and push and push and push to get folks brought in and continue to invest in them.
I appreciate that. I will, again, just note before turning over to my other colleagues, this is a real priority for the City Council.
Absolutely.
For whoever is the next leader of DPW, I will just say from this seat and from the other chair I sit in the chamber, bringing more capacity in-house, training our young people, our workers, our Baltimoreans to inherit and take these jobs is critically important. I think as a city, we got too comfortable contracting out too many services, and it is absolutely crucial that we rebuild our own workforce, that we build pipelines into these careers, and that we are continuously, every step of the way, investing in our own people so that we're not paying a premium for this contractor and that contractor, but that we're actually supporting our own workforce.
Absolutely. I think there's a place for a public-private partnership in some of our process areas and in the interim, just from a risk mitigation standpoint and safety for our folks and obviously some disparity in training or skill level set. But I encourage everyone, make a visit out to the plant and just see the energy that's coming from our employees, because they're really starting to feel the benefit of us investing in them. And I think our performance is reflective of that.
The mayor just signed me up for that visit, so I will be there.
All right, very good.
Appreciate it. Mr. Comptroller, or do you want to,
No,
Mr.
I was going
Director?
to add something to
Go ahead, Mr. Director.
To that point, and I just want to give a lot of credit to Matt and Steve Sharkey over there, because Steve, the interim bureau head of water and wastewater, and is invested so much time and effort on getting more people on board, and that's a reflection of the number of vacancies that we have right now that we are out on the streets to fill 237 people at the same time. The second thing I want to mention, it is emphasis on whatever we do, compliance has to be the guiding and the consent decree that has to be our guiding mission.
Sure.
That we're not going to be compromising that throughout the process. We'll get them ready and make them ready to do what they needed to do. but we're not going to compromise compliance. And
Understood, but there is nothing in my read of our consent decree that in any way would discourage us from building a pipeline of our own
Absolutely.
workforce.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor.
On that point, you're right, Mr. President, but when you look at the consent decree, there are things that we have to do contracts for to be in compliance. So I want to be very clear about that. While we are growing and working to have the pipeline and, quite frankly, help some of our employees who had folks that were their bosses that allowed certifications to lapse and didn't invest in them for all of those years. None of us had anything to do with that. But also, while we're training them back up, we do have to remain in full compliance with the consent decree. Obviously, we're going to continue to do that. So it's a both and. As we do this deep investment and continue the work that the director and the whole team at DPW has done about building up our own employees, and at the same time, as you know, figuring out how to bring up the next generation of those folks, we also at the same time have to remain in compliance, because what we haven't talked about at all today is that throughout this period over the last few years, our wastewater facilities have been putting out their best numbers ever, even better than back in the quote-unquote good old days, or the bad old days, as I like to say, when we did have all of that staffing in-house, right? We're talking about the best affluent numbers that these treatment facilities have ever seen. And we have to make sure that we keep that going while we build our capacity, so that when we're in the day where we aren't in a consent decree and we can go to doing all of the stuff that we all want to do, we can just hit that switch and have it go. And I, for one, cannot wait for you and your colleagues to visit Back River. Don't tell everybody the secret I told you. Then, to certain members, I want to see their reaction.
Yes, sir. No, and I appreciate that. I will just note, I think we are hopefully in the midst of a culture shift within the agency, both in terms of the priority of safety and worker safety, and then the prioritization of our workers generally, and developing their skills and investing in their training and opportunities. And so in no way, shape, or form do those things need to be in conflict with each other. Right. We both can carry out a mission that is focused around safety and that abides by every mandate of a consent decree, while also developing our own internal capacity to do the work. That said, Mr. Comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a list of 37 questions.
Let's go.
But fortunately for all of us, the council president asked 30 of them, and the mayor volunteered the answer to 5. So I just have 2 remaining. You mentioned something about the state of Maryland limiting PFAS.
Yes, that was in bill down in Annapolis this past legislative session. It did ultimately fail.
It did. So we are not limiting.
We're not limited yet, because the same senator that introduced that bill last year has taking a strong position that they will be bringing it back up again this next legislative session, and I expect it to have even more momentum.
Gotcha. Okay. Where does Veolia take their stuff now?
Currently, their contract literally just ended on the 30th of June.
But
they were going to quarantine.
As of last week.
They were to their facility on Quarantine Road landfill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the state did eventually move forward in limiting PFAS, that would have made Veolia's current process difficult?
Yes, it would. It very likely would have required more capital investment, changes in processing, and then additional costs for where their outlet could potentially be. They may not even be able to sell within the state.
And that would also potentially be an issue for us if in the future we're attempting to bring this in-house.
Correct.
It will be an even more expensive proposition.
Absolutely.
But,
Sure.
Okay.
One other thing I want to add is this has gotten a lot of attention also at the EPA. The previous administration was very big on this, and they were considering regulations to consider an extraordinarily low level of what was deemed acceptable. Part of the process is we're called a passive receiver. None of our watershed, none of the chemicals, nothing that we put in to our system is generating these forever chemicals. They're coming from other users, getting into the wastewater supply. The problem is, and one of the questions that everyone is considering is, who pays, how do we deal with the responsible parties on this? Is it on the utility to pay for this advanced infrastructure, pyrolysis, other issues that are extremely expensive, put it on ratepayers? Is there something else, another way to do that? That's
Well,
part of the issue.
You would think that it would be the responsibility of the creators or suppliers of these materials.
That's part of the discussion. The issue is when you put limitations on it and don't have that other side of it, you then put at risk people who are using this for land application, or ourselves could be held liable for allowing that level of chemical to stay in.
Oh, I mean the creators of the chemicals in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. But right now, it's been focused solely on sort of the limits of the amount of it in the effluent versus the responsibility of who has to pay for it.
And it really needs to be on both.
Exactly.
Right.
And if it's not, then it could end up, and likely would end up, coming on the utility. And I think that's one of the reasons Veolia may have decided not to continue with this operation, knowing that this may be something in the future that's coming.
So if you take this to a potential conclusion, if there was a trend to move towards limiting these on a more than just in Maryland basis, what happens if New Jersey decides to limit their amount of available PFAS and it becomes more expensive for Denali to do what they're doing?
That's the point of this being 4 years with 2 one-year extensions. That gives us time with this new RFP that Mike mentioned to figure out how the best way to address it. Is it a pyrolysis? Is it gasification? What is that system, and how could we finance, build it, and put that in place after 4 or 5 years to make sure that we can handle whatever those standards are at that time? We believe that within that period of time, there will be a standard. And we just don't know where that's going to lie right now.
Okay.
But we need to buy time a little bit until we can figure out what that is so that we can make the investment that comports with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Seeing and hearing no further questions from the board, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. Thank you. As there is no more business before the board, I will briefly turn to Comptroller Henry.
I just want to take one moment to call attention to the fact that trying to keep titles with the people as they are on the actual day that we're living in. If I understand how all this works, this will be Director of Public Works Khalil Zayed's last meeting here in this capacity. So I just want to take a moment to thank him for the wisdom and the experience that he shared with us in his time. Also, I feel like I should apologize to the director in front of everybody for the fact that he really takes the brunt of when people are testifying and things they say spark funny thoughts in my head, and I don't want to disturb the flow of the meeting and make other people listen to them. I'll just whisper them quietly to Khalil, and he'll just politely chuckle and make me feel like I actually said something funny and that it's all out of my system. So I want to take this opportunity to both apologize and thank him for serving in that function as well. And if anyone else had other remarks, I'm going to then afterwards lead a chorus of "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow." Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
First, I will just say, Director, there's a special place in heaven for anyone that had to endure that many Bill Henry jokes. So you will be rewarded in the afterlife. But obviously, you're not leaving me or really the BOE. You're probably sitting right there somewhere come next BOE meeting. But really, I wanted to thank you publicly before the board and really before the residents of Baltimore for helping us to get DPW on a much better path. We know when you came in, literally, you were dealing with the darkest time probably in the agency's history, and to be able to see that flip, we have a long way to go still, but to see and hear, more importantly for me, to hear from the workers when I'm out visiting them or just see them out on their routes or just pop in to talk to some of them, I can feel the energy shift that they feel, that the folks that are leading them now are really see them and value them. So we want to thank you for that, and let me officially welcome you back to the second floor of City Hall. It's been a long time.
I'm going to echo both the mayor and the comptroller in thanking the director for really engendering a culture shift within the agency. You inherited it in a bad way. And like the mayor said, there is still a long way to go for the Department of Public Works. But what I most appreciated, and I know you're going to continue to do this as deputy mayor, was how hands-on you were. That I felt like when we went out, council members, to go do a shift with the workers, you were right there with us. And that was consistent. I would see you out there and hear from the workers that you were out there at the sanitation yards, you were on the truck with them. Just showing up and being present, I think, is extremely important in leadership roles. And that is something that I feel like you uniquely brought to that job, just the level of showing up, even though there's a lot of different facets and it's a large, complicated agency, your ability to be there with the workers, seeing it firsthand, I thought was remarkable. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you in your new job. I'm looking forward to new leadership within the agency. Again, big work to be done there. We are not where we need to be in the Department of Public Works, but I truly do appreciate that. I think you were pushing a very large boulder and started to move it in the right direction. And so thank you for being a colleague on the Board of Estimates, but again, thank you for taking over one of our most troubled agencies in the city of Baltimore and really making an impact to improve it. Director, anything you want to say before we?
May I just say,
nice words from the city
yeah,
solicitor
because we've
coming
had
up.
some, Director Zaid, I just wanted to thank you so much. We faced some big legal challenges in your tenure, and having you in this leadership role, although sometimes it can't be always pleasant, you made it as pleasant as possible so we could present the best argument and the best course of action to improve not only DPW, but the lives of our workers and our residents. So I just wanted to thank you so much for your partnership since you've been here. It's been amazing. But I'm glad you're not leaving.
Yeah, and just somewhat on that same note, I do also want to just note one of the things I appreciate about you, Director Zaid, is that when council members brought criticism, you were not defensive. Like, you were able to hear it and not immediately react or. I just found there was a really measured approach that you were able to take, and I think that is extremely hard in leadership jobs. None of us like to receive critique or criticism, but I do want to just appreciate, because there were some difficult hearings, there were some difficult one-on-one conversations you and I had. There were, I know, several other council members. I just do want to appreciate the level of maturity in being able to hear feedback and not see it as a personal attack. Again, I think that is a hard thing to do in any job, but particularly in a high-level leadership job. But it definitely, I think, set a really high standard and is something that I think other city agencies, and I know in your job as deputy mayor, that you can continue to impart to folks is that it ain't personal. It is not a constituent or a community member or a council member attacking you. It really is about how do we improve the work and the delivery of services for the constituents that we represent. So I thank you for that. Anything you want to say before we close this out?
Yeah, very, very quickly. First, I want to thank the mayor for his trust in me in both positions, and I want to assure everyone else here that is, we're leaving this agency in good hands. You know, I mean, with Matt, you know, and we couldn't get anybody better, to be honest. And the stability and the path that we're moving, Matt and I and everybody will continue on doing that work, and we'll continue in the messaging that we do. I wanted also to thank the board here for all of the help, and I learned a lot, even in a year and a half in it. I learned what to say, and I learned also, I hope I did learn what not to say as well. So as part of being here. So thank you all, and looking forward to continue working with all of you.
Very much appreciated. Before we go take a picture with the many, many young folks that are here with us today, the next regular meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, July 16th, 2025 at 9 a.m. I want to thank everyone for participating. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn.
Hi, TV 25. We are ready to go. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry we're running a few minutes late today. This is the Board of Estimates bid opening for July 2nd, 2025, and it's going to be a quickie because we have one addenda and one opening for which I do not believe we've received any bids. So I'm going to run through those right now to put them. We do have two addenda? But you told me that it got opened already.
It was 6:18.
Freaked me out, freaked me out. Sorry, folks, we received two addenda, but one of them was by mistake. So we are going to read the one that we received that we know has not been opened and is being rescheduled for opening, and that is for the Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 675. Again, that was RFQ 000-675. This is for Bus Lane Automated Violation Enforcement System. That's going to be a problem for me. The opening date was originally scheduled for July 2nd, 2025, and it will now be opened on July 16th at 2025. Again, that was RFQ 675 Bus Lane Automated Violation Enforcement System. That bid will be opened on July 16th, 2025. And we only have one opening that was scheduled for today. This is also for the Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 000-708, and this is for flexible spending accounts. And I need to report that there were no bids submitted for RFQ 708. Again, this was for flexible spending accounts, and we did not receive any bids for RFQ 708. And that actually concludes our bid opening for today, the quickest one in a long, long time. Our next Board of Estimates bid opening will be on July 16th, 2025 at 12 noon, and we will see you all then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, TV 25.